Have you ever wondered why some of the absolute brightest, most creative students can still find exams to be a huge struggle? Well, you are in the right place. Today, we're going to unlock the hidden reasons this happens and give you a powerful toolkit to help them and you come out on top. So let's dive in. Okay, so let's kick things off with the huge question, one that a lot of people think they already know the answer to. The thinking usually goes, if a kid is gifted, then exams must be a total breeze for them, right?
Well, yeah, the answer might actually surprise you. The reality is, it's way more complicated than that. For so many of these really capable students, exams aren't easy at all. In fact, they can be this massive source of stress and frustration and lead to scores that just don't match up with what they actually know.
Just so we're all on the same page, let's get a quick definition down. When you hear experts talk about a gifted child, we're talking about a student who has some really exceptional intellectual abilities. Now, that's often measured by an IQ score, usually over 130, but it also includes kids with just incredible creativity or a really deep talent in one specific thing. Now, here is a huge piece of the puzzle. It's this idea of asynchronous development, and it's one of the biggest reasons for these exam struggles. Picture this. You've got a 10-year-old who can understand university-level physics, no problem. But when they get a simple question wrong, they might react with the emotional maturity of a 5-year-old. It's that gap, that mismatch between their brain power and their emotional skills. That's where all the trouble can start.
To really get this, let's think about taking an exam like you're playing a video game. To win, you've got to get past some pretty tough final bosses. And for gifted students, those bosses are usually internal. They're born from that asynchronous development we just talked about. So let's meet the big three. First up, we've got a boss that absolutely thrives on things being simple and repetitive. And that boss is boredom. Now, I know that sounds a little weird. How can a test be too easy? But trust me, it is a massive factor. See, when a student has already mastered the material, a standard test can feel painfully slow and kind of pointless. Their brain is wired for complexity, for a real challenge. So when it's not getting that stimulation, it just zones out. And that leads to rushing, making silly mistakes on easy questions, or even just skipping stuff because they've totally checked out mentally. All right, our next boss, this one is sneaky. It's that little voice in your head that whispers, "Are you sure? What if you're wrong? What if it's a trick question?" Everyone, meet perfectionism. This is where that amazing, advanced brain can kind of start working against itself. A gifted student might look at a really simple question and see 5 incredibly complex ways to interpret it. They'll debate all these nuances that the person who wrote the test never even thought of. So they spend 10 minutes on a 1-minute question, second-guess answers they know are right, and before they know it, time's up. It's like they're battling their own superpowered analytical brain. And last but not least, we've got the boss that can totally derail even the most prepared student out there. This is the powerful force of anxiety. You know, being incredibly smart doesn't make you immune to pressure. Not at all. In fact, this is where that other side of asynchronous development hits hard. Gifted kids often feel emotions with this incredible intensity. So in a high-stakes exam, that sensitivity can just become overwhelming anxiety. It floods their system with stress and literally blocks access to the information they know cold. Okay, so facing down these 3 bosses sounds pretty tough. I get it. But here's the good news. Every single video game boss has a weakness, and every challenge has a strategy. So it's time to start gathering your power-ups and build an exam success toolkit. The very first power-up is a total shift in your mindset. It's not about studying more, it's about studying smarter. Just cramming stuff you've already mastered, that's a one-way ticket to boredom and burnout. You're just feeding that first boss. The real winning move is targeted prep. Find the few things you actually need to review, nail them down, and then move on to more advanced, more interesting stuff that keeps your brain fired up and engaged. And you can start loading up on these power-ups before you even walk into the exam room. First, use a pretest to figure out what you already know so you can just skip it. Second, actively train those executive functions, things like practicing with a timer or organizing your study sessions. And third, get ahead of that anxiety. Practice simple mindfulness, like just taking 3 deep breaths, or visualize yourself crushing the test calmly and confidently. You've also got power-ups you can use to stay in control during the test itself. Come up with a game plan that works for you. Maybe you tackle the easy questions first to build momentum, or maybe you jump straight to the hard ones while your brain is fresh. And this one is so important. Learn to advocate for yourself. Empower yourself or your child to politely ask for help when a question is confusing. Just say something like, "I'm not quite sure what this question is asking. Could you explain it another way?" Look, no hero ever finishes their quest all by themselves. Acing exams isn't just about your own personal strategy. It's about knowing when to call in your allies for backup. And for students, that means getting parents and teachers to work together as a team. One of the most powerful tools your team can give you is something called an accommodation. And this is a really, really critical point. Accommodations are not about making a test easier or giving someone an unfair advantage. They are about leveling the playing field. They're about removing the obstacles, like crazy time pressure or a noisy room, so the exam can actually measure what a student knows, not just how well they can fight off perfectionism or anxiety. So, what does that actually look like? Well, it could mean getting extended time, which is a total game changer for a student who overthinks every question. It might mean taking the test in a separate, quiet room to cut down on distractions and anxiety. And to fight that boredom boss, it could even mean having a challenging extra credit section ready to go for students who finish early, just to keep their brains engaged and happy. At the end of the day, all of these strategies, the power-ups, the support team, they're all building towards something much bigger. Because the real goal here, it isn't just about getting a good grade on one test. What really truly matters is helping a student build what's called a growth mindset. That means helping them see a tough exam not as some big, scary judgment on how smart they are, but as an interesting puzzle that they get to solve. It's all about shifting the focus from proving your intelligence to improving your learning. And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. The real high score in this game is helping a child build resilience so they can bounce back from a setback. It's about developing real self-confidence. And most important of all, it's about keeping that genuine, lasting love of learning alive and well long after the exam is over. And so I'll leave you with this to think about. In a world that loves standardized tests, how can we find better ways to see a student's true brilliant potential instead of just measuring how they did on one particular day under one particular kind of pressure? That's something for all of us to think about. Thanks for watching.